Okay, we're gonna get started. I'm sure more people will join as we crack on. We've got an hour together today. So first of all, I just want to welcome everybody who's online. Thanks so much for taking the time to call in. We're really excited to be able to introduce you to the founding members of the GFC Youth Leadership Council. My name's Hayley Ruffy. I'm the Partnerships Director here at GFC. And my role in this was I have had the wonderful privilege of recruiting these fabulous young people onto our youth council and navigating this journey together as we learn from one another and work out the optimum way that we can work together here at GFC. So the focus of today's webinar essentially is just to introduce you all to Antonina, Sasha, Nasra and Mete. We're all calling in from different parts of Europe. Antonina's joining us from Poland. I'm on the south coast, Nasra's in Bristol, and Mete and Sasha are in London. So we will try and keep this to a good pace and hopefully keep you all engaged for the hour. There will be a chance, hopefully at the end, if we've got some time remaining, for any questions that anybody has. We encourage you to pop them in the chat that you should see to the right hand of your screen. Should we run out of time, we're really happy to take questions via our social media platforms over the next couple of days, and the guys will be really happy to answer them for you. So just to give a little bit of context, and then I'm going to stop talking because no one wants to hear me speak, and I certainly want to hear from our guys. So the Youth Leadership Council has been a journey for GFC over the past year, as we've continued to seek out new ways in which we can involve young people in leadership opportunities throughout the organisation. We really saw an opportunity in our current structure where we could create space for young people and children to play more of a significant role in driving forward the organisation. And all of this has culminated after a year-long campaign called the Voices of Youth that we have run globally. As part of that campaign, we held youth panels in London in April last year. In Kampala, Uganda, we held a girl-led panel in partnership with Girl Sparks. And in October, we held a youth panel at our offices in Washington, DC. And essentially, the youth panels were creating a safe space for people who were interested in what young people had to say to come and listen to them for a really honest and open and frank conversation. So today is the next step in that, and we're really grateful to have this space to introduce you all to the founding members of the council. Hopefully today you'll hear a bit about each of the council members' journeys, a bit about why they're here and their aspirations for the council as we move forward. And as I said, they're very happy to answer questions we have time for at the end. We will finish promptly at, it's going to be 7 p.m. here in the UK. But like I said, please do follow on with additional questions because we would love to continue this conversation with you all. So right, enough from me. I'm going to hand over first of all to Antonina to introduce yourself to everybody.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to meet you. Greetings from Poland. My name is Antonina, I'm 23. I'm a sex educator here in Warsaw, Poland, and also a sexual and reproductive health and rights activist. I currently work with Ponton Group, which is the oldest and biggest Polish collective working with SRHR, but I'm also an international activist. I've spoken at the European Parliament, and I was recently a speaker at the HRFN conference in Mexico City.
Hey, Mete. Oh, it's disappeared.
Hi, can you hear me? Great. My name is Mete. I've got a few different hats on. Apologies for the background sort of noise, by the way. But yeah, so I'm a councillor for an area called Stoke Newington in Hackney. So I was first elected in 2014. My passion comes from my background. I've always been passionate to make sure that young people have a voice in shaping their futures. So therefore, I also set up an organization called My Life, My Say, which is on a mission to empower young people to participate in democracy. The charity has been running for more than 4 years now. We employ 6 people, and last year we were awarded by the UK government as the Champions of Democracy Award to commemorate 100 years since women were given the right to vote. And I used to also work for the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. I used to head up his youth engagement in the run-up to the election in 2016. Again, making sure that young people have a voice in shaping his manifesto, but also making sure that they have a voice in his campaign too. So my background is predominantly around youth advocacy, and that's why I'm really happy to sort of be part of the Youth Leadership Council.
Right. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Hi, so my name is Nasra and I am from an organization called Integrate UK. And the work that we do is around violence against women and girls. And we're most known for doing work around FGM and grooming and radicalization. So that involves going around schools, colleges, universities, as well as other institutions to train people on safeguarding against FGM, which is, if people don't know, female genital mutilation, which happens in sub-Saharan Africa, parts of Asia, and as well as in Europe due to globalization. So what I've done in my time is train lawyers, medical professionals as well, and empowered youth to also be able to deliver these peer education for themselves and for other people as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I do with Integrate UK. I'm also an education officer in my students' union, and that involves being elected to be in this role for the year and basically representing university students on their academic interests and ensuring that their voices are heard in committee meetings and any decisions that the university is making. So yeah, that's me.
Hi guys, so my name is Sasha, I'm 21. I'm originally from Moscow, Russia, but I'm living in London for the last 4 years, I believe. I'm a university student, I'm studying international relations and development, and it kind of describes my passion because besides GFC, I'm actually model UN activist, and we are simulating UN and we are regularly trying to at least pretend that we can make a world a better place. Normally we do. We are promoting sustainable development goals, which were held by UN, and we are talking about very interesting issues, about very stressful issues, and we're genuinely trying to bring young people together in order to talk about what's going on in the world, in order for them to become world leaders and to be able to do stuff which actually going to change the world. Besides that, I'm also working in the International Association for Political Science Students because, once again, there are so many people who have really cool ideas and we want those people to be heard, regardless of the fact that they are not yet PhDs or even masters.
Great. Thank you, all of you, for introducing yourselves. So we're going to get stuck into the questions now from me. And throughout this, to all of our callers online, if people are thinking of questions or things they want to say, feel free to write it in the chat. And then Maria, our communications associate, will put any of your questions to the panel at the end where we have time. Okay, so Mete, how do you incorporate the voices of youth into My Life, My Say, your organisation?
Thank you, Hayley. So I guess there's many ways to answer this question, but I guess firstly to say my organisation is youth-led in true terms. So everyone who works for the charity is young. I think I'm the oldest actually, so I'm 26. But everyone who works for the charity, we range from, I think the youngest is 18 all the way to up to 24, 25. So of course, like our day-to-day runnings are run by a group of young, diverse people. Therefore, making sure that our sort of like services as an organisation is more reflective of young people sort of widely. But it's also important to make sure that, you know, again, we don't fall into the bubble where we make sure that we assume that we know everything on behalf of our generation, because even the definition of youth is, you know, people assume that we are one big homogenous group, but actually there are many sort of like groups within young people who are even more underrepresented, and it's so important that they're involved in that decision making process too. So one of the things we do is we run something called democracy cafes, which bring together 30 to 40 young people together in coffee houses. and we work with Starbucks nationally, although it's not exclusive to Starbucks. And the idea is that they could talk about issues in their community over a cup of coffee in a more sort of less formal setting. And we use that as a space to make sure that they're informing the work that we're doing, but also making sure that we're raising awareness around democracy for them in a setting that works for them. And we use the views that come out of that to make sure that our strategy as an organization is governed in the right way. So I guess it's a bit about, you know, making sure, one, that your organization and the leadership within your organization is reflective of youth views, or two, making sure that, you know, your activities are sort of informed by and directed by young people, and that's the way I guess we do it.
Thanks for that, Mete. So you talked a lot about that you're a young organisation. Everyone working at the organisation is young. Which is amazing for a young people organisation, but turning it on its flip side, you know, what challenges do you face as being a youth-led organisation? Do you think there are specific challenges because you are young people that you face in leading your organisation?
Yeah, of course. I think there are some obvious ones, you know, like, you know, training and, you know, making sure that people have the right skills. But I've always been a firm believer that as long as someone has the right attitude and sort of around, you know, being able to be willing to learn, they can pick up some of those skills that they may not necessarily have at the moment. So I think attitudes are something that we have to look out for. Some of the challenges that we face are, of course, you know, like partly my role as the chief exec is to make sure that we're getting the funding in for the charity to self-sustain ourselves. And of course, you know, as you can imagine, some funders can be a bit sort of hold back with their funding because they assume that you may not necessarily have the capability to carry out your projects or the stuff that you say you want to do, or you might not have the people in those roles to be able to carry out those your strategic objectives. So that's one of the biggest challenges I think we face. But ultimately, I think, you know, if you've got a strong track record, I think, you know, that will come with it. But yeah, I think the biggest obvious one is the skill gap, which, you know, for us is about investing a lot in people. So it's about making sure that everyone has the right skills. But then of course there are, you know, the outside perception of, you know, whether we've got the right skills or not. But I think that comes with your track record.
Great, thank you. So Nasra, over to you. Similar question really. In your organisation, how do you guys incorporate the voices of young people? Because I know it's a bit different from Mete, so it gives us an opportunity to learn a bit more.
Sure. So yeah, so I think the light is just about to turn on, so I'm just gonna go and turn that on and then I'll be back. Yeah. Give me a second. Right, sorry about that. So yeah, so again, we are a youth-led organisation as well, but a lot of the things that we do in terms of kind of getting our messages across and whatnot is we make like video resources, so like music videos and films, and also we've done like plays, and all of these things are written by young people, from the lyrics to the music videos to the scripts in the actual films that we make, to how it's directed, what kind of theme we're going for. Everything is done by the young people. And when we go and present these to stakeholders such as the Home Office or schools or colleges, again, it's done by the young people. And then when we have like training as well, when it comes to FGM, grooming and radicalization, and child sexual exploitation, again, the young people train other young people in how to safeguard against it and how to kind of deliver it. And I think the most important thing that I find very precious about Integrate UK is that we are pushed to have our personalities within the work that we do. We're not told to be corporate. We're not told to kind of keep it down or not be like as fun and crazy as every single young person in the charity is. That's kind of what is our unique selling point, and that's how we kind of get our message across. And it's actually worked for us over the years, and made us a unique charity in the sense that everything that we do is reflective of young people. And I think that's kind of fascinating, because if you look at, you know, a lot of organizations, they may say that they are run by young people and whatnot, but however, it's very corporate and bureaucratic. However, when it comes to Integrate UK and how we steer and the direction of the charity, young people have a massive say in it and the heart of it. And we also have junior trustees to kind of hold the trustees to account and to also have an input into how the charity is run. And it's a fantastic opportunity for young people to get experience of being a trustee, as well as making sure that they are at the heart of how the charity is being run and where it's going, and also knowing all the tea, all the gossip that goes on behind the closed doors. So yeah.
Thank you. That's great, Nasra. Brilliant. Yeah, loads to take away. I'm really glad we're recording this because I'm going to have a lot of things I want to follow up. Okay, so Antonina, if we come over to you in Poland, let's talk about motivation. So you have a really you've chosen a really challenging space to work in. What motivates you, do you think, to do that work, and also the studies that you're undertaking? Because I know you're doing that as well.
Yeah, also, it's a very tricky question, and I could go on and on about it for like hours, really. But I've been doing my work since I was 18, I think, so that would be 5 years already. And I started working with sex education because of lack of sex education in Polish schools. I started a youth collective working in that topic when I was 18. And then I went on to being a sex educator, but I was getting involved in my work with people who are sexually abused, for example, or people who are discriminated against because of their sexual orientation or any other matter, really. And right now, what motivates me is the statistics, actually, because I know the stories behind these statistics. And in Poland, 20% of women were raped or are going to be raped, and 25 are going to survive attempted rape, and almost 90% are going to be sexually abused. We're a European country in the European Union, and we don't have access to the morning after pill. It has to be prescribed. And the leader of the ruling party said recently, like half a year ago or something like that, that every miscarried embryo has to be baptized and buried because it's a Christian thing to do. And I could go on and on about the situation in here because we are actually living in women's hell here in Poland. Just a few days ago, there was a contraceptive atlas released for last year, and Poland actually has the worst access to contraception in the whole continent. So I know so many survivors of trauma. I know people who can't deal with their sexual orientation. We don't have access to legal abortion. We don't have same-sex marriages. It's really bad. And I keep meeting people not knowing what to do and not getting help. I know so many women who had illegal abortions and who ended up in the hospital with their lives threatened. And when I was studying this issue in Poland, I got to know more and more about the situation worldwide. And I decided to be an SRHR activist because sexual and reproductive health and rights are actually part of human rights, but they're being left out and forgotten. So we need people to give a voice to survivors and to just show the situation. So when working in my topic, I decided to be a voice using my privilege as a white woman in a European country to talk about my situation and my friend's situation, but I also have a wide network of fellow activists from Nepal to Guatemala, and we just try to cooperate together and bring people on to, taking care of young people's sexuality and sexuality overall, actually. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, all of you inspire me very much. So Sasha, we come over to you. As a young person yourself, why do you think it's important in spaces like GFC and other bigger organisations, development organisations, why do you think it's so important to elevate the voices of young people, and why do you think we should all be doing it?
Because sometimes we can bring a completely different perspective to an issue, because sometimes young people can think out of borders, out of like the box, if I may say so, because we have various experiences. We have different experience than possibly the previous generation, because I don't think that we as like before 2000 were born with like smartphones and tablets in our hands, but we're still very much familiar with that, and also just because I don't want to be judged based on the numbers in my passport. I want to be judged based on what I can actually produce. I want to be judged based on my ideas, based on my concept, based on what I could actually do. Because I've had a business in Moscow when I was 17, and my ex-boyfriend at the time said, "What the hell are you doing? You're a young girl." And I don't want people to say that to anyone else. Because yes, I'm a girl, yes, I'm a young girl, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to respect me. It doesn't mean that you don't need to trust me and to have trust in me. And I do believe this is crucial for people to understand that sometimes it's not only about the life experience and the way what you actually went through, but sometimes it's about all the knowledge and everything you experienced, everything you read, everything you might have went through as a young person, or sometimes like just ideas, the concepts, because we're not really being bounded by that. There is a very interesting study which says which shows the difference between like kids at the age of 3 possibly and the kids at the age of 15 and people at the age of 25, and you can see how different they see the world. And I believe that while young people usually being ignored, we can bring so much more into every organization, into social media campaigns, into everything. Because we are, I don't know, 30% of our population, please. Yeah, some part of the population is like getting old because of the life expectancy, but at the same time, in some parts of the world, you have so many young people. And if you would ignore our perspective, you would ignore a very big number of consumers, a big number of people who could change the world, or just bring new ideas. This is crucial.
Thank you. It is crucial, and thank you for sharing those thoughts. It's really, really good. I can see a few comments coming in on the side, so looking forward to answering some questions as we get to the end. But now if we just move on to talk to Mete. How do you think your work and your experience in advocacy might be able to inform GFC better in terms of our own advocacy as we start looking at that aspect of our work a bit more?
Yeah, so my background is sort of advocacy. So I've worked with like I say, I've worked with many partners like the European Union, to of course for the parliamentarians here, to many others like from Mayor of London. So it's all about how to make sure that young people, particularly like within our organisation, sort of current parameters, is to sort of make sure that their voices are heard, and also to improve insight from the decision maker side, and also to lobby on behalf of the charity. So I feel like, and of course being a politician myself, you know, having been elected for the last 5 years, I think I've got a range of different experiences that can sort of come to G4C to make sure that, you know, in terms of your aims, in terms of our aims, and sort of as a charity, to make sure how do we get that across. So, you know, what I'll be looking to do over the next sort of months and weeks is to really to make sure that I'm contributing my ideas in terms of who we can reach out to. I know that we've already sort of been in touch with like connecting, you know, some of your work to like the Mayor of London's office. I'm really looking to like use my expertise and connections in those areas.
Thank you. I'm just also looking at the questions coming in. It's really cool. It's great to have such good engagement. Thank you, everybody. We'll hopefully get some of them very soon. So Antonina, obviously GFC is a funder. We fund in grassroots organisations all over the world. Tell me a bit about why you think investing in young people particularly is important. So organisations like the one that you founded, you know, or organisations like Mete is running, you know, why do you think it's really important to invest in young people? Tell us as funders, because we want to know.
Well, first of all, I really do believe that education is the key to changing the world, because education can shape a totally different way of thinking about the world. And we are raising generations after generations, and each generation are going to be leaders at some point. So if we put focus on creating empathy, on creating understanding, on equality, then we can actually work with people who respect each other and who want to change something in the world. So education would be the very basic ground on which we should focus. And education obviously involves young people. The younger, the better, really. But it's never too late to learn, like, obviously. That's one thing. And the second, it's super important, and I've been talking about that to many of my friends, fellow activists from around the world. Everyone tells me, and I agree, that young people locally know best what's, well, best for them. Because they are involved in the situation, they have ideas, they understand the political situation, the traditions, what can they do, what should be changed. They're actually on the ground and can think of totally different things than people who are working from an office in the other end of the world. It doesn't mean that the ideas from the offices are worse. Just, understanding the whole context is super important, and being able to make decisions for yourself lets young people feel like they are actually leading the change. And if we are going to fund young people, we should trust them and not tell them what to do, because we have the core, the idea, and the people, children, youth, they really know what should be done in their area because they feel the pain of what's not okay in their part of the world. So investing in young people means investing in change that's the best for that particular region, which is super important if we are actually going to change something.
Thank you so much. That's great. And that leads me really nicely on to come to Nasra. As part of Integrate UK, who are one of GFC's current partners in the UK. And you are recipients of funds from us, and it would be as a young people-led organisation. So it'd be really great just to give you the space to reflect on what that means for you guys as an organisation and how you're able to utilise those funds to further develop your organisation.
Sure. So I think when it comes to funds, I didn't realize the importance of it until I kind of became a lead outreach worker, which meant that I had more kind of insight into how funds work within the charity. And we had a conversation around, unrestricted funds and restricted funds. And I remember our director kind of doing applications and, getting very exhausted by, the fact that there was this uncertainty of whether or not we could carry on as an organization. And for me, that was like disheartening kind of thing because, our charity has brought together so many young people. And if you look at the young people that come into the organization and their journey throughout Integrate and the confidence that they gain and the empowerment that they gain, even for myself, that's speaking from me from being 16 to 22 now. I think, you see the value of importance of, you see the value of the charity and how it's important for these kind of things to exist. So when we kind of were in a place where Integrate wasn't going to survive, or we were quite tight on funds, it was frightening, especially for us young people. So I think when it comes to being a recipient of GFC funds and other kind of funds, I think it's allowed our charity to grow. It's allowed certainty within the staff who are our support system and our mentors, and are the ones who are making sure that this work carries on. And when it comes to the facilities that we have as well, our office is a safe space for us young people, especially when we come from backgrounds where we can't speak to our parents about certain issues, or we can't discuss about certain issues where we can't talk to our friends. We would come to the office, and that's where projects would get created from our own stories. And having that maybe be taken away from us was, again, it could have been very dire to a lot of our experiences. So I think in terms of funding, it's so crucial to not just to the work that we do, but to us as individuals as well. And just coming from a background where speaking about certain issues isn't the way. It's about being quiet and coming into Integrate if Integrate wasn't there and the funds wasn't there and it wasn't unrestricted where, you know, we could spend it in a way where we would want our project to be creative, it wouldn't lives would not be changed. And I think that's the most crucial part of getting funding and for organizations to be given funding, especially grassroots organizations. I think that's the most important part as well. Those people who are actually doing the work on the front line, on the ground, working with young people, working with people who are affected by the issues that we are working on. I think, you know, that's the most important part. And I remember just discussing as well about the idea of kind of trusting us with the fund. I think, you know, there might be some sort of skepticism around certain charities and whatnot, but I think when it comes to grassroots organizations, no matter where it is in the world, you know, that trust between the person who's given the fund and the organization is very, very crucial. And I think our work speaks for itself in terms of how impactful it is. And I'm sure everyone else can say that for the organizations as well. So yeah.
Thank you. That's really great to hear, and it's great as well to hear the impact that funding is having on the organisation, especially as you're going through this time of just really awesome change and things happening in the space in which Integrate's working in, which is just brilliant. Okay, we're headed toward wrapping up our set questions, guys. So those of you who are starting to ask questions on the chat, we are coming to you very soon, I promise. So Sasha, if you could tell all our callers one thing about the space in which you are working, what would it be?
I would say it would be diversity, because I'm studying the University of Westminster, which is, I think, the most diverse university in the UK, and it feels that way. It's great in a way that my friends are from everywhere, and despite our background, we still have things in common, and our lecturers treat us equally. Like, I'm Jewish, but like I'm Jewish from Moscow, so I'm being an immigrant in London at the moment. But that doesn't really matter, because I do experience the same things as everyone else, and we do experience the same things together. I'm participating in the Democratic Education Network in my university, which is like a student-led organization, and we do various things. We are organizing academic conferences annually. We are having our exhibitions. For example, we had an exhibition called Silent Oppression about, as you probably guessed, groups that were oppressed in one way or another. We're having food festivals, and we can just share the fact that we are all young because we're university students, that we're here in London right now, but like we can share the differences as well. We can share our culture, we can share our traditions, we can share our history, our background, our everything. And in my opinion, it's kind of connected with Youth Council, and it's partly what brought me to Youth Council, because I'm very privileged to be able to experience that. And I want more people from all over the world, and more young people from all over the world to experience that, because I experience cases of anti-Semitism, and I know that there are cases of racism or sexism and stuff like that, and I don't want it to be like that. I don't want my friends to live in the world where they could suffer from something like that. And I think it's important to give people an opportunity to meet other young people from, I don't know, Australia, Africa, North America, Russia, etc. And I would say, generally, my key word would be diversity right now.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Thank you for sharing that. That was really, really good to hear. Okay, so finally, the final question from me before I'll start trying to field some of these questions, and I know a couple of people have said they're happy to speak as well, which is brilliant. We've still got a good 20 minutes left altogether. We as a team, as a group of us together, we've talked a lot about what we want to accomplish as the council, and it's in its early stages, as we all know, the five of us together. And I know one thing we've talked about that we really want to accomplish is more global representation on our council. But in terms of one thing or a couple of things that you really want to achieve role on the council, I'd love to hear from all of you, and that might actually address A couple of the questions might touch on what Caitlin and Daniel have asked from Empower. Thank you for joining. So talk a little bit further about what you want to accomplish in your role and in the function of the Youth Leadership Council. Should we start with Antonina, go around Mete, Nasra and Sasha around the circle? You guys go ahead, take the floor.
Yeah, the Youth Leadership Council gives so many opportunities to everyone, to GFC, to every one of us individually, to us as a group, and to each of one's networks, actually, because behind every one of us, there are so many other young people who are also doing amazing things. So what I would like to achieve, first of all, I'd love to offer my perspective on issues that are being left out. And it's actually a great day today to talk about it, because today is the SRHR Awareness Day. So happy SRHR Awareness Day, everyone. it's my job's holiday or something. So yeah, I'd like to share my perspective and the effective solutions that we've already come up with, and maybe think of something else. I'd love to widen my network and get to know new people that we can communicate with, because it's an amazing place to do it, and we're having so much access to so many organizations. I've seen HRFN, I've seen Empower here in the attendees list, so it's amazing, really, and I'm so happy to be talking to everyone here. I'd love to show everyone where is their money going, and maybe point to some places that also need it but are being forgotten or pushed to the side, because I think that every one of us as an expert in their field, we know where the money is actually needed, and we know what's being done with it when it's sent to the grassroots organizations. So what I would like to do is cooperate as a member of the Youth Council with other older experts and people working in the field for a long time, offer them my perspective and learn from them in return. And there is one thing that I wanted to tell everyone. We came up with it as a team of young experts in Mexico City during the HRFN conference. We had activists from Barbados, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Nepal, Kenya, Romania, all over the world. And something that came up during our sessions when we were setting up the field for our panel during the conference was that the change that you are funding is already happening. It's already being done, and your funding is a great help, but you have to see us. So we're going to just step up a bit and show ourselves to you. And it's not like, it would be amazing if we could cooperate, but we don't really need each other as a matter of life and death. But we can create an amazing team of young activists and older activists who are funders, who are mentors, who are experts, and create something really new together, giving voice to young people in a safe space created by older ones. I think it could be really amazing.
I think it's me now. So I guess for me, it's three things. So the first one is it's an opportunity to meet other social innovators. I mean, the Leadership Council itself, the opportunity to meet Nasra, for example. We had a conference that we held in November last year, and we collaborated with Nasra, with Haley. We're speaking with Sasha as well. So I think, that opportunity to connect with other like-minded individuals and who are out there doing great things is a massive opportunity for someone like me. And I think, nowadays we live in a age where you've got more social problems and less resources, and collaboration is even more important. So that opportunity to learn and connect is extremely important to me. The second thing, I guess, is probably to support the mission of the Global Fund for Children. I think it's something that comes quite close to home for someone who, had to, I come from Cyprus, where it's a war-torn country. My family had to flee to come to London. So I know all the problems that, we've went. I mean, I'm brought up in Hackney as well. We've gone through huge problems in terms of coming out of sort of poverty and losing everything as a family, everything that we've owned. So, you know, the opportunity to give back to an organisation and to support the aims of the charity, I think is massive for, and it's, you know, it's something that I'm personally interested in. And just to touch up on Antonina's point about, you know, the funding that is, I mean, the organisations that are already out there doing great things, I think that's precisely, and it links back to my first point, which is that there are lots of people already doing great things, and there is no point of reinventing the wheel. And it's about thinking about how we connect with people in different spaces and how we can fill in the gaps and make a bigger impact. So that's why I wanted to be part of the council.
Right. Yeah, just to kind of add to what everyone else is saying, I think one of the reasons why I want to be part of the council is just to offer my experience and also to grow within my own experience and skills, and learn from everyone else on the council, because being around people who are doing such great things is a fantastic opportunity to kind of connect, as Mete said, and to collaborate on things. Also, another reason is I think working together, coming from different organisations, is so much better than working apart. I think, you know, being on the council together, again, learning from each other's experiences, I think that's fantastic. And I think the more bigger organisations work together, even as individuals, I think the better the outcome will be. And also to support Global Fund for Children, I think the work that they're doing is fantastic. And of course, I've benefited from it as being part of Integrate UK. And I think, you know, to be able to support them and the awards for the youth in any way that I can, I think that will be a fantastic opportunity. And I'm excited to see how it will manifest itself throughout the next few months and years.
I believe I'm the youngest one here, so it kind of sums up what everyone else was saying, because I'm very much looking forward, I'm already doing in fact, to learning to co-create and to observing how people are doing this. But also, for me, GFC is quite a lot about connectivity, because I want people from different parts of the world to be able to grow into one single network, because we're all great, we're different, and this is perfect. But like in difference, our strength is, and I want people to be able to communicate, and I would like to work towards it. Plus, I'm kind of very pumped about the ability to potentially influence policies of the GFC, because policymaking is my kind of specialty right now and hopefully future profession. And I think that's very interesting. Plus, hopefully it would allow us to bring strategic view from the point which our board of trustees didn't really look at it previously, because I do believe that young people are important, and by working with GFC we can bring the new generation of world leaders together, who hopefully would be slightly better than current world leaders. Not dropping any names right now, but yeah, for me it's genuinely about like the big strategy which I want to be part of. I'm really pumped about the opportunity to influence the future, essentially.
Thank you. That's great and really inspiring. Always good for me to be reminded of what you guys want to achieve with this council and with this space that will be led by you all. And essentially, just to touch on Caitlin and Daniel's question from Empower, hearing about how the Leadership Council functions and what it entails, it's kind of a little bit to be confirmed. We've been together as a group, I think, since just the end of last year. Antonina, you joined as our kind of final person for this stage. For anybody on the call who is what we define as young, I think we've agreed roughly under sort of 26, 27. If you are interested in joining, please do contact us, because we are actively looking for more people to join us as the Youth Leadership Council. And right now we're going to figure it out together, and actually Mete, Antonina, Nasra and Sasha will lead those discussions, because in order for this Youth Council to be what we all hope it will be, we want it to be authentically led and created by them. So it genuinely is a space for young people to have an influence in strategic decisions here at GFC. And and so there's kind of more, I think there'll be more to come. I'm really happy to connect with you both offline to talk about it further if you'd like, so I can tell you a little bit about how we got here, but I also want to address some other questions that we've got coming in, so I hope it's okay with you both if we move on. I'm just looking at the chat and going back up. I think Chanel, did you want to ask your question? I think you said you were happy to speak. I'm not sure if you're still with us.
Hi. Yes,
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, Lily. Thank you for having me. Yes, I just wanted to put a plug. Well, first and foremost, thank you for letting me participate. It is my first time, and it's wonderful to hear all of your voices and your sort of future and vision and what you hope how youth will be involved or what youth is needing and what the gaps are. And I myself, I still like to think of myself as a youth, even if I am nearing my 30th birthday in April. But hey, I think that I would say as someone who is in my older youth, I am actually the project manager for a platform that I think all of you can really utilize, and it's called youthlead.org. I'm not sure if you've heard of it yet, but I think what Mete was saying, I think what youth are really looking for are resources and funding, and I've heard about voices and connecting the networks and not reinventing the wheel. Check it out. You're not forced to sign up or anything, but check it out if you feel that's a platform that you think would be beneficial to spread the word, to create discussions even, and all these topics that you've already brought up. And we'll be having a couple of campaigns coming up that we'll be excited to announce. So if you sign up to our listserv, you'll get to hear about what those are. And yeah, so I guess that's just in a nutshell. That's me. My name is Chanel, and I am in the United States with a woman-owned nonprofit, a woman-owned small business. And although I am American, I am actually an immigrant from Indonesia. So I understand that sense of, I myself as a youth, I actually left in Indonesia during the anti-Chinese 1998 riot. If you all are familiar, my own education was interrupted. And I think Sasha was pointing out how education is so important to change the world. And I agree, because I think that's how I was able to lift myself up from poverty and the circumstances I was around. I would say that I'm the lucky few. And so I'm looking forward to working with this GFC group. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant. Can't wait to look it up, and I'm sure the guys will be in touch with you, because that just sounds like a brilliant platform. So okay, we'll move on to the next question. We've got a question from Katie. This is for you guys. Have any of you struggled to balance leveraging the expertise of older generations while retaining youth decision-making power? And if so, how did you address it? Great question, Katie. Thank you very much. Who wants to kick off?
I can give an example. So recently, we launched the social inclusion unit. So we set up a commercial arm of the charity. It's one of the ways in which we try to diversify our income as a charity to make sure that we're more self-sustainable in the long term, and it also fits into our long-term sort of values around being more socially inclusive and promoting that in sort of the corporate sector. So we hired someone who used to previously work for government, who used to lead on this work in government, and he was the first person that we hired that wasn't young per se, like definition wise. So we had, my team, of course, are, we're very, it's a bit like Nasra was talking, making sure that there is always that democratic decision making, whilst making sure that you've got the balance of having to get things moving quickly rather than sort of dwelling on sort of decisions too much. But when my colleague first came on board and he was leading in charge of the consultancy, we had to rely on his expertise naturally. So a lot of the time I had to sort of just give him, the go ahead for a lot of things, because I had to trust him, and because he had previously done this job and it was a new area for us. Naturally, that sort of caused a bit of difficulty in my team. I'd be honest about it, because we're so used to making a sort of consensual based decisions on where we go forward. So I had a bit of a challenge in making sure that sometimes Andrew, who was leading on the consultancy, wasn't so aware, or he wasn't so sort of probably aware about our sort of values in terms of making sure that we're youth led in decision making. So he would go ahead and sometimes put forward proposals that didn't really fit in line with our ethos. So that caused a bit of rift. But I guess, the most important thing with these things, particularly when we think about intergenerational dialogue, is really about making sure that you've got the space to be able to talk and communicate effectively, in a way that doesn't, you don't leave it too late to the point where it causes rifts in the team. So I think it's about finding that balance to both empower people to make decisions, but also making sure that you've got a clear line, open communication to make sure that you address the issue around the intergenerational divide.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting question. My organization, Ponton, we are not a formal NGO. We are just an informal collective, let's say. So we don't really have a problem with, communicating with each other because we are a really democratic group, and it doesn't matter if you're 17 because our youngest members are around 17 and the oldest are in their 40s, I think, right now. So we are just trying to talk to each other and don't mind, the differences in, I don't know how long someone has been working or anything. No, we just try to talk to each other. And what Mete said about the intergenerational dialogue, it's the best way we've come up with it. And there is another thing that I wanted to say. I was a consultant for a health committee in the Polish government when our Minister of Health was forcing prescriptions for the morning after pill again 2 years ago, I think it was, or 3. And it was amazing. We lost the battle, obviously, but there were many youth SRHR activists in the room at the government. And we were actually screaming at the minister of what he's doing and telling him of examples of many young people who are deprived of emergency contraception, of what this ban will do to people. And we couldn't address it and we couldn't have won it because it was already a done deal by the government, but we stood up anyway. And we had to fight the power from the government, from the politicians, from everyone in the room, but we were still hearable. And afterwards, we started a series of protests. And we were also present during the Black protests in Poland that you may have heard about, the big protest against enforcing the abortion ban in total. So we are trying our best, even though it's not that easy.
I'm afraid that my story is not as inspiring as Antonina's, but a couple of years ago, I was volunteering in the center in Moscow, which is helping migrants and refugees. And that was when war in Syria and war with Ukraine was on its peak. And I do remember screaming on one of the governmental officials in the Ministry of Education over the phone while I was like 18, so I just finished my school, because they didn't want to admit the girl who actually even had Russian citizenship into the school based on the fact that she doesn't have what you would call in English a registration in Moscow, despite the fact that in our constitution it's actually clearly stated that every child has a right to receive education. I think it took me 3 hours and my voice was broken at the end, but I managed to get this girl in the school I just finished myself. But like, it was super hard because even right now I do sound like a child. 3 years ago I sounded like I was 12. Somehow I still managed to communicate my thought because I was so pissed on someone who deprived this girl's education. But like, especially in Russia, because Russia's been a very patriotic country, people automatically would assume that if you're young, and especially if you're a young girl, that your only job is to bring coffee. But like, you just have to bring your inner strength out, I guess, in order to say, hey, could you please figure out that I'm not only like the pretty face, I actually have some background as well, and I'm capable of showing you that you're wrong here. And after some time, that kind of works, I guess.
I think for us, like the kind of anecdotes we have is around certain communities telling us that we shouldn't be talking about FGM, for example. I think that's something that's been happening over the years, where they say like, you don't know anything about that, or leave that to the community, etc. And there was at one point where MPs were like, we don't want a business with this. We don't want to have anything to do with the issue of FGM because we don't want to anger the community. That's kind of the trajectory that was going on for a while. But the way that us as young people, the way that we kind of backlashed was we kept on coming back stronger and better. We thought, okay, you guys are not going to silence us. And I think as Sasha was talking about, that you have to find the inner strength. I think that's what we kind of try and push all the time is, you have to be strong in these kind of situations where people are always trying to silence you. And there was a case in Bristol a few months ago where one of our young people reported somebody for admitting to inflicting FGM onto their child, and then the court case fell through, and that was kind of a way for people to question the legitimacy of us as young people and our work within the charity Integrate. So that was quite interesting. But the thing is, we came up with the music video, which was my clitoris, and that the whole idea of that music video was to kind of say, you don't have autonomy over our bodies as women. Forget about the patriarchy. And it was just kind of like overly pink and crazy, just to kind of be ironic and push it in people's faces that we are in control of our bodies, and we as women are the ones who should be talking about what we want and what not men, not people who just say that we need to leave it to the communities or whatever. So for us, it's all about resistance, and that's kind of how we always resisted towards these kind of mechanisms that try and silence us.
Thank you so much. That's it, as we've come to the end of our webinar. I just wanted to touch on, as a way to kind of round off this great conversation, something that Nasra just said, that as a young person, you have to be strong in moments when people are trying to silence you. And I just think that's really powerful, and something that I think would resonate with many of the young people around the world with whom GFC and our colleagues at other organisations are working with. And I just really appreciate everyone's time on our webinar today. And if you've got any follow-up questions, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you. And thank you, Antonina, Mete, Nasra and Sasha. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye.